Hello everyone, welcome back to Nicholas's Cars. This week we're going to talk about ranking all the JDM cars. I expect this to be a big video because pretty much everything JDM is very big these days, and there's definitely a reason for that. But today I'm going to talk about the JDM cars and why I think some are also a little bit overrated, and we're going to talk about a bit about the values of them and stuff, and I'm going to rank them all from number 15 to number 1. Not these aren't them all, but these are like the 15 best or the 15 most talked about in my opinion, and let's get into it. Alright, so number 15 for me would be the Mitsubishi Eclipse GSX, which I think is it's a strange looking car, but obviously it's quite fun. It's a fun little sports car, and it's a very interesting one for Mitsubishi. I don't know a ton about this one, so I'm not really going to talk for a while about this one. I don't know really what its reputation is, but like compared to more not overhyped necessarily, but very hyped cars. So I don't really have a lot to say, but I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of the way it looks, even though it is cute, and it would certainly be a fun sports car, but it's not like super exciting, but I do get why it is cool. And anyway, number 14 would be the Acura Integra Type R, and people will be very angry when I say I'm putting the Acura Integra Type R number 14, because the Acura Integra Type R is one of the most hyped cars in the world, really. Like, it's hard to think of a car that gets talked about as much as the Integra Type R, and it is a very cool car in the color that it is. It's not that fast, but it's very fun to drive. It looks quite cool. Even though the circle headlights do make it look a little funny, but the other market ones or whatever, the other headlights look a little bit better. I think those should be able to import soon. The Integra Type R is a very good car if you're looking for a little like kind of front driver sports car like that. The only problem with it is that the prices for them are kind of ridiculous. Some nice ones sell for like $50,000 nowadays. It's way too much for what it is. But it's ultimately there's supply and demand, and there's a lot of demand, not much supply of them. But it is certainly a very fun car. All right, next up, number 13. I think this is number 13. Would be the Mitsubishi 3000 GT or 3000 GT VR4. And the newer one, the later ones, I think I like those better than the older ones. The older ones to me look a little funny. Dare I say ugly? And I just offended, I think, all the 3000 GT enthusiasts. But the 3000 GT VR4 for me does look cool. I don't like it's cool that it's four-wheel drive and everything, but it was quite heavy in its day and had a lot of luxuries and comfort compared to cars that look similar, like the Supra. And while these are really nice too, these are at least thankfully affordable ones. Like, as we're going to talk about later, the Supras and the GTRs are very, very at least the Supras in many ways are very overvalued. We'll talk a bit about that later, but the 3000 GT is a really cool car. I definitely take a liking to it, even though it wouldn't be one I'd buy. Okay, next up is the Honda S2000. I really do like the Honda S2000, and a lot of people say, I've never driven one, obviously. I haven't driven any of the cars on this list, but I hope to drive them all someday. I mean, the S2000 is a really cool car for me, but I don't think that a lot of people get really excited by the S2000. They say, oh my gosh, it's the S2000, it's so cool. Some people say, oh, it's the best driven car I've ever had. From what I see, the S2000, I've seen them driving around. They seem like a lot of fun, but there's just nothing that strikes me for them as being very special. I'm probably have to drive one, spend some seat time in one or whatever to be convinced of its specialness, even though I think it is one of the best cars Honda has built in recent years. But even though it would be a ridiculous amount of fun, even though it's not as exciting, it's not super fast, but I get why people love it. It is a very good handling, still affordable sports car. Their values for them are going higher, and so they're becoming a little bit less affordable. But the S2000 I think is also a really good looking car. I think its looks are definitely one of its strong suits, and it's a good sports car. Alright, next up would be the Subaru Wrx, and sorry I didn't put this one higher on the list. It was a lot of indecision for me on this list, like deciding which ones go where and which ones don't. And by the way, Wrx would probably be number 12 or 11. I gotta getting a little lost there with the number. But Wrx, regardlessly, is a really cool car and one of the best, like, I mean, you could take a completely stock Wrx on a dirt trail and do pretty decent on it because it's four-wheel drive and everything. But it does take some modifications to make a serious rally-built one. It is a really cool car, though, and obviously the rally spec ones, the fully kitted out rally cars, are amazing too. And I would like to own an STI someday. This is one of the cars on the list I would definitely seriously own someday if I had an extra space for a project car, because they're extremely tunable, and they can go insanely fast with the right amount of mods, and they are just crazy tunable. Alright, next up is the R33 Gtr, and by the way, if you're wondering when I'm looking down and looking at my notes, but the R33 Gtr, for me, I think looks quite good. I don't know, I'm confused because, as I'll get into later, I can't give you the positions where the other GTRs are on the list. The R33 I think is a bit between R32 and R34. R34 I think has a very clean design. It looks very good. It's a very good looking car. The R34 still is a very cool looking car, but it looks much more aggressive. Maybe not quite as much to my liking, which we'll talk about later. The R33 is in the middle. It's like a little bit aggressive, but it's also a little bit classic. So I like the R33 a lot, and it's probably and it's pretty affordable too for the GTRs. I'm not sure what they sell for. I'll maybe put some pictures of some recent sales or whatever on the screen, but the R33 is a very handsome looking car. It's very tunable too, but unfortunately with the older GTRs, we don't see them. Even with the Supras, we don't see them modified like we do other cars such as Mustangs and stuff, because Mustang values and everything. You can still buy a used Mustang quite cheaply, but you can't really buy a used Supra, as we'll get into later. Alright, next up would be the Miata, and my brother, apologies to my brother, he's probably very offended that I didn't put the Miata higher on this list. I like the Miata a lot. My only complaint about the Miata is it's a little slow. Like the original one, 0 to 60 was like 10 seconds. But then again, that is good because it's also kind of safe, because all the modern supercars now are so fast you can't enjoy their speed. You can't enjoy the sound or whatever. In Lamborghini Aventador, it really takes you just a few seconds to get to jail speed. But Miata would probably take you like 30 seconds going full throttle. Probably not 30 seconds. Probably take you 5 minutes. No, But anyway, the Miata isn't fast by really any definition. But it is very, very cute and handled amazingly well. I mean, if you had a Miata and put some new tires on it, they race these things in race series all across the country, and I think Miatas are really cool. As for which generation of Miata is my favorite, I like the newest Miata, one you can still buy today, not the most. My favorite one is still probably the NA Miata, the first one, the cute looking one. The other Miatas, the other tree ones look a little funny to me. They don't look that as good, but the NA and the newest one, the one you can buy today, I can't its name has escaped me, model designation or whatever, but that one is one of my favorites. Alright, next up we have to talk about the Toyota Celica, if you're anywhere else but America, GT4, and I think this is a really cool car and one that is not appreciated. I don't think they sold these in America. These were extremely cool rally homologation cars, 4-wheel drive, I'm pretty sure. I think you have them with a manual. They're probably manual. I think they do look quite good in my opinion. The Celica GT4 is a really good looking car though, and I mean it's not like none of these Japanese cars were like, some of them were like, I wouldn't say anything is completely beautiful compared to Italian cars, but I would say they are really, really good. Some of them really, really good looking, and I think the Celica GT4 is a very cool looking rally inspired car, just in the same way the WRX and the Evo are, and I think it's just really underrated. I think out of all the cars in this list, the Celica GT4 is the most underrated. I think it's a JDM car that should be really considered to be able to hang with the really cool ones like the Integra Type R and everything, or at least considered really cool. Not my favorites necessarily, but at least the ones that are considered really cool. Alright, next for me would be the R34 GTR, and the R34 GTR is taking like 6th or 7th place on this list, I think. So a lot of people might be upset at that, but I think with the R34, it's a little bit overrated, as the Supra is kind of. A Supra is probably more overrated. The R34 is not as popular, but the R34 is still extremely popular. I do love the way the R34 looks. I think it's an extremely handsome looking car, but it's kind of a bigger, heavier car. I mean, the R35 is even bigger, but the R35, its size, it somehow almost defies the laws of physics. It drives really well for a car that's that heavy. But same with the R34. But the R34 is very quick, obviously, and it's extremely tunable. But it's sad because you never see anything really modified here. Because the R34 GTR is a $500,000 car here in America. It's always like, you will not find one for under $200,000 here in America, because there's probably 15 of them, 20 of them in America. Most of them kind of came in there through like some kind of company or something, and the tech that got broken up by the government, I'm pretty sure. So, and there are a few other ones that have snuck their way into the country one way or another, maybe from Canada or something, I don't know. But regardlessly, you're almost never going to see an R34 GTR around here. But they are really good. I mean, they're really cool cars. I really like R34 GTRs, but I just think for what they are a bit overpriced, especially very overpriced actually. $500,000 for one is crazy. Can you think of what you can buy for $500,000? There's a lot you can buy for $500,000. Yeah, I mean that's half of a Senna. That's crazy money for an R34. Even though I get if your R34 is your dream car, they are certainly like another reason why. Just another point. Another reason why all these cars from the 90s are going up much is because I think people who were kids in the 90s are rich enough to buy some of these cars now. And because of that, especially Supra, the demand for them is insane, and Toyota doesn't build a Supra anymore. They build a new one, which isn't as cool, really. And so now you were seeing new Supra, or old Supras go up a lot in value. And that's why the next one on my list is the Evo 9, the Mitsubishi Evo 9. And the Mitsubishi Evo 9 and the one after it that comes higher on this list, the NSX, they're kind of clashing for me. Like, I don't like. It's hard to tell. It's hard to tell between Evo 9 and NSX. Talking to Evo 9, I think Evo 9 is a really seriously good looking car. I love the Mitsubishi Evo. I think it's just a really good driving car. I mean, it drives very similar to WRX, but I just like something about it a little better than WRX. The it's just really cool. I think that's why Evo 9 has a spot on the list. Now I put the NSX above it when I made notes for this list, but I don't know if I really would think about that now. Like, it's, for me, it really depends on one the other. I've seen NSXs. NSXs are not cheap these days. Like $70,000 for one or a few. Like, I've seen some with questionable wheels and stuff and higher miles, or even with an auto, which you really don't want. Like 4-speed auto is pretty dull. I'm not sure why Honda even sold an auto, because the automatics were so dull then. But like, if you get one and you get a manual and you get like no mods or cool mods, it's a really good car. I mean, I've seen the Rocket Bunny ones. The Rocket Bunny ones look amazing. You can turn into a really cool like time attack track car, whatever. I mean, I think they're valuable enough that most people wouldn't do that now, but it'd be a really cool project car. And it's too bad that the Acura Honda NSX, whatever you want to call it, has I like the name Honda NSX better personally, has appreciated so much, because all these cars are a little bit unattainable compared to what they were before, because it's like they were the super killer car that you could get for, at least with the Supra and the GTR and stuff, for way less money than the supercar, and then beat all the supercars with it, but with a modified one. But unfortunately, as we're going to get to right now, in fact, with the Supra Mark IV, which is number 3 on this list actually, and the reason why I put the Supra number 3 and not number 1 or whatever is mostly because of its value, and because I think there's so much hype about the Supra, even now, like when it's like close to 30 years old, like not 30 years old necessarily, but it's like 25 years old. There's still so much hype about the Supra. I mean, my brother Cole, who builds Lego mocks on YouTube and his channel, you should really check him out, Mr. Brick Engineering Dude, or just, actually his channel is called Brick Engineering Dude. But anyway, his most requested Lego model to build was the Toyota Supra, and the Supra is, like, out of all the models he built, it's the video that's done the best. So the Supra is extremely, extremely popular, and I do get that. I mean, it looks really good. I think the Supra is extremely good looking, especially with a few mods like newer wheels, because I think a lot of the JDM cars or Japanese sports cars kind of came with dull wheels, and that was kind of a bit annoying with some of them. But of course, you can find some really cool wheels for them, and I definitely think that the Supra is no exception to that. I mean, unfortunately, though, with the Supra prices, the reason why I didn't put the Supra number 1 is the Supras are so expensive. I mean, I've seen Supras over $100,000 easily, like automatic. I've seen funny looking like mod ones. I mean, if you could find like and the Targa top ones are not as desirable, I think, because their chassis is a bit not as good handling. Even though Targa would be fun, I've seen Toyota Super Sport before. I think that's what they call the Targa one, and those are really cool. Unfortunately, though, I just don't. I just think they're not worth what people are paying for them, $100,000 plus. I mean, a manual, no mods, low miles, hardtop one could fetch like $150,000, $200,000 now if it's like a super nice one. So it's crazy what people pay for a Supra now, and I think it's definitely a bit overpriced. You know, it is a really cool car, and it certainly deserves to be really popular, but maybe not quite as popular as it is in the car community. All right, next up, number 2 is the RX-7 FD, and I think the RX-7 FD is extremely cool. And I think this one makes sense because the RX-7 FD values, even though they're going up, are much more sensible. I've seen them for around $50,000 or so. And the only problem with the RX-7, obviously, I think it's one of the most beautiful JDM cars of them all, and especially with a wing and a few other mods, they are insane looking cars, and just one that I would love to own. And obviously people put 4-rotor engines in them and just make them absolutely insane. Only problem with it is that the rotary engine was quite unreliable, and I don't know if I've seen people swap non-rotary engines into them, but I wouldn't do that myself. It is a really good car though, and if you can fix all the issues with the rotary, and if you put a few mods on, I think it's just one of the best looking Japanese cars you get, and the values for them, prices are still sensible. You can still buy one for around the price of a new Corvette, which is still a lot of money. But anyway, last off, number 1, in my opinion, the best JDM car of them all. You may be subtracting in your head trying to figure out which one he hasn't talked about yet. It's the Nissan R32 Gtr. I think the Nissan R32 Gtr is extremely cool, especially the ones, certain modified ones. I think the Gtr is the best balance of cool looks, aggressive looks, and kind of nice car looks. Like, it's not too overstyled. Like, the R34 is not overstyled compared to what you see on some cars nowadays, like the new Corvette and stuff, and even the new Supra. Cars nowadays are and new M4 and stuff. Cars nowadays are very, very overstyled, angry looks. Just like there's big emphasis on that, which I don't really like. But admittedly, there are some really cool supercars like the McLaren Senna and stuff, in my opinion, look really good with the more aggressive design. Even though the Senna design is not really one of their main priorities. Anyway, without going off on a tangent about the Senna. The R32 GTR, I think, just strikes a really good balance between aggressive looks and stuff. And if I ever bought one, I'd probably do something like put new tires, new wheels. I'd probably give it something like 400 to 450 horsepower, maybe 500, even though it would be a lot. But the four-wheel drive platform can handle a lot of power. I just think it's a really good-looking car, and it would be a lot of fun for a weekend sports car. And I think R32 GTRs are kind of expensive for what they are, but they're still very affordable compared to what the Supras and the R34 sell for. And the R34s are just insane money for what the car is too. But anyway, I mean, I think you could get why the R32 is my favorite JDM car, even though most people will probably say the Supra. I probably have a different opinion than most. Anyway, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed this. If you want to see any more videos like this, like ranking the generations of RX-7 or GTR, Corvette, or Porsche 911, or any of those, which I have a lot of, or ranking my favorite Ferraris or Lamborghinis or whatever, I want to make lists of all those videos. You know, not all stuff will be list videos. We're obviously going to have a lot more car spotting stuff now, so stay tuned for that. And I guess I'll see you next week. And make sure to give this video a like, too, if you enjoyed it. I will see you next time.